The Rock Metal Podcast, episode 248 with Metal Church.
Metal Church.
Let's go ahead and rock and roll, then I'll hit record. All right, Rock Metal Nation, what is up? This is John from the Rock Metal Podcast. That sample you just heard was Out of Balance by Metal Church, who I've got on the show with me right now. We've got a new album called Damned If You Do, set to release via Nuclear Blast Rat Pack Records on December 7th. Right now I'm being joined by Kurt, share some stories about the music, share more info about what they've got going on. So Kurt, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely, great to have you on. Let's go listen back to that track, Out of Balance.
When you
coming back from Out of Balance. I absolutely love this track. Sick riff. I love that chromatic scale, which kind of tilts it a little sour. I guess that's because of the Out of Balance. I'm curious.
Because it's out of balance.
Because it's out of balance. Exactly. I was like, those clever guys.
Aren't we, though? Yeah.
What's the story or inspiration behind Out of Balance?
It's kind of about an abstract way of kind of looking at life as we get older, how we're still always trying to find balance in your life between, trying to come to terms with the fact that, you have to accept the good and the bad in life. You kind of do. I mean, with everybody that's on some kind of mood-enhancing drug anymore, and trying to be happy all the time, we're not supposed to be happy all the time. So
we're not.
Life isn't that way, but you have to come to terms with being able to deal with it. So that's kind of what it's about. Yeah, without getting too philosophical about it. I mean, it's still a metal song. So
yeah, the way I translate it, as you mentioned, that is because I'm a dad now. There's so many things I have to balance between work and being a dad and being a husband and all these things. It's like the metal version of growing up.
yeah, which is kind of a dichotomy in itself because it's, we're not supposed to grow up. We're in a state of suspended adolescence if you're in a band, right? But it is happening. I mean, we are older now. I mean, all of us thrashers from back in the day, we're all in our 50s now, which is, we weren't supposed to live past 30 because it wasn't cool. So who'd have thunk, right?
Exactly. Well, I think that's one of the fantastic points that you bring up, especially with the track is, how do you balance being in a thrash band and having the same responsibilities as, say, somebody who works 9 to 5?
Right. Yeah, it's got to find balance. But it's really a unique situation. And, I think back when, in growing up in the 60s and 70s, becoming a music fan in the 70s when the whole notion of being in a band or creating rock music, if you were over 30, you were done. So it took me a long time to get over that because that was so heavily ingrained in me growing up. And I understood it to be that way. But it's certainly not the case anymore, and I think a lot of it is great because of the new music business, being that the major label filter, of an A&R department going, he lives, he dies. Okay, well, they're 30, they're old. We need something that the kids are going to like, and all this kind of corporate stuff that really took over the industry, that really doesn't exist anymore. So, so the new music business is us old guys, or like what I like to call veterans. We get to still have a legitimate career because it's direct artist to fans, because they're older too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rock and roll and metal isn't just for kids anymore. It's it's for everybody.
That's true. Let's go listen to the next track. Damned If You Do.
Stealing from you everything you wanted.
Rock Metal Nation, it's John from the Rock Metal Podcast for a real quick break to let you know that Jay over at Metal Mayhem Radio is looking to help you get your band in rotation on his station. So go ahead and hit up Jay at studio@metalmayhemradio.co.uk. That is studio@metalmayhemradio.co.uk. Just go ahead and say that the Rock Metal Podcast sent you. He'll get you into rotation on Metal Mayhem Radio. All right, come back from Damned If You Do. Another killer track. Love the opening with the chant there, the
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Now, a similar question for you, Kurt, if you don't mind, is what's the story or inspiration behind Damned If You Do?
Well, the whole concept of the album, sort of, if there is a concept, I mean, there's kind of a theme running through it, but at least that song and the album cover, it's kind of based on the fact that it's kind of the socio-political climate in the world right now, with the era of fake news and all the lying that's going on and lies and deception that's being uncovered in the political division and the socio-political division that's going on in the country. There's so much that you have to be extremely careful about who and what you believe. And you have to use critical thinking. You have to just really be careful. I mean, I guess that's really the only way to say it. And because, like, for example, the cover, it's not a slam against the church at all, or the Catholic Church, or any of those scandals. It's basically showing that just because you're sitting in a church doesn't necessarily mean you're hearing the truth. Mm-hmm. So the devil's biggest lie is that he doesn't exist. And he works very hard at deceiving people, and there's a lot of deception in the world right now. And if you don't pay attention, and if you don't think for yourself, and if you don't, if you don't you have to be very careful who and what you believe in this modern world.
Yeah.
So that's what it's kind of about.
Wow. Cool. Now, for Rock Metal Nation who dug the track Damned If You Do, we'll be super excited to know there's a music video that you can check out. So if you go to today's show notes at www.therockmetalpodcast.ca, you can go ahead and check it out. And Kurt, if you wouldn't mind, take us through the production of the music video for Damned If You Do.
Well, that was just kind of one of those performances, the heavy metal warehouse video. So, we didn't really want to get into too much of a concept thing or something, but the video was just a performance video. We didn't want to be too over the top with it. So there's really, we wanted kind of a different kind of vibe to it as far as going from between floors of this particular location that we did in LA, and, so that was kind of it. It's really strange to condense like 25 hours worth of work into 4 minutes. How that works, with the video production, it's really strange how that works, because you spend all day doing it, and then it comes out and it's 4 minutes. It's like, wow, that took a long time to make. But I guess it's mirrored by the same fact. It took a couple months. The actual recording process to make the album, it took a couple months to make, less than an hour's worth of music. So it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, for Rock Metal Nation who dug the two tracks Out of Balance and Damned If You Do, we'll be super excited to know that there's a full album called Damned If You Do coming out on December 7th via Nuclear Blast and Rat Pack Records. So, Kurt, if you wouldn't mind, when we pick up the album, what should we expect?
You will hear a classic, old school sounding Metal Church record, which is a Metal Church. Metal Church is one of the things I'm quite proud of, is the fact that we've always tried to maintain a certain level of musicality and melodic sensibilities. And on this record, I definitely focused on trying to avoid the modern sounding albums, because to my ears now, from a production standpoint, metal albums all sound exactly the same now. They all have the same drum triggers. They all have the same guitar sound. Everything is mastered and mixed, so everything is just incredibly loud, and there's no dynamic range, and it's just a big brick of sound. And I, for one, don't like that. I mean, some people prefer that, and there's been some comments on on the videos that it sounds, the guitars aren't powerful or something like that. And I'm like, well, if you're comparing it to modern stuff, no, it doesn't. But it's going to have an old school sound. A lot of people think it sounds like an 80s album, and that was the intention, is to have it sound that way. And musically, you're going to get some powerful heavy metal, but there's going to be a chorus, and there's going to be musicality, and it's going to be singing, and there's going to be all those kinds of things that make it heavy metal music. rather than just a 4-minute tantrum.
All right. Now, for Rock Metal Nation, who is just super excited about everything they've heard, the next logical question, in case for whatever reason they don't know, is how can they find out more about you guys? Is there a place they should go to on the web?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just, you can search, Metal Church and Rat Pack Records and Nuclear Blast. I mean, obviously, if you do the search engines, you can, just type in the name and all kinds of stuff will come up. So, but mainly go to Rat Pack Records, and that was where you can order everything and see the bundles of the vinyl and the CDs and the cassettes and all that kind of stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, Kurt, unless there's anything else you wanted to throw out there, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day to come onto the Rock Metal Podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for wanting me on the show. That's wonderful.
Hope you just found your new favorite band in Metal Church. Big thanks to me for coming on and showing the music with us. Make sure to head over to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to get all the information on the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.
It's the master.